This video is going to focus on importing records. You can import parts, you can import customers, and you can import vehicles. Let's start by importing some parts. Go over to the parts page. Now to import parts, we're going to click on the import and we're going to click on import from file. We're going to browse to the file that holds our part information. It needs to be in one of these three formats. Most programs out there have the option of exporting records into those formats. But you can even copy and paste the information into an Excel file and save it if you have no other options. So let's go ahead and grab these parts that I've copied and pasted into a notepad. Let's go over to Excel, create a new file. Let's paste the part information from that text file, and you can see it put all the information in these columns. Now SmartGo needs to know what these columns are, so we need to insert a row, and we just need to label these. We're going to call this list cost, and this is an extended price, so we don't even need that column. So here we have the number in stock. We're going to put in stock, the part number, description, the list price, and the cost. Let's go ahead and save this, and let's just save it as a CSV. An XLS or an XLSX will work as well. Let's do a CSV. We're going to call this parts CSV. Yes. Okay. Now let's go back to SmartGo. Let's browse. Find our parts file. Let's go ahead and put the quantity in stock. You can select the fields that you want this information to go into here. So we want the part number to go into the part number, description, the list price, and the cost, Click import. Okay, so here we have the names of those fields that we set up. Now we can decide where we want that information to go. So we want in stock to go in stock. We want the part number to go in part number. We want the description to go in description. The list into the list price. The cost into cost. We select OK. And as soon as that little circle stops, your parts are there. Let's check. Let's go back here. Let's grab this part number. Let's go back to SmartGo. And part number equals that. And there it is. Now let's change this to begins with. Search again. So there are no other part numbers that begin with this. Let's go back over here for a second and modify this part number slightly. We're going to add a 0 at the end of it. And then we're going to save that. Let's go back to SmartGo. Let's go to import. And what I'm demonstrating here is that SmartGo won't import the same part number twice. So let's set all this up again. And go ahead and import. Now you'll see it imported this part again because the part number is slightly different. Let's go and grab this part number, which hasn't changed. Go back to SmartGo. Put this in here. And you'll see that this part number has only been imported one time, even though we imported that file twice. It won't repeat the same part number. You can also save parts or import parts right into a purchase order. So let me demonstrate that. Let's start by getting some parts to import. Let's just go ahead and copy all this. Then go to Excel. Let's paste all that in there. Let's go ahead and save this. And we'll call this Parts PO. Let's go back to the program. Let's go to the inventory page. Select the purchase order that you would like to import those records to, or those parts. Click on Jump to Purchase Order. Go down here to Import from File. Now I'm going to go back over and just change these part numbers slightly. Because since they're already in the system, it's not going to import them again. Just make up a little stuff here. And let's get rid of this one since there's no info with it. Let's go ahead and save that again. Go back to the program. Find that file. And you can see since we used the labels in the program when we pasted it, it went ahead and saved. It went ahead and chose the fields for us already. So there we go. Go ahead and import that. And there you go. It imported it right to the purchase order. Now, the next step would be to process these items. Let's say we wanted these two to go into our stock, and these we did not. Because let's say we ordered all these parts for a car, but we're not going to sell these very often, but we would like to have these two in stock. So what we're going to do to make these items easier to edit, we're going to go into the data sheet view. You can edit this information two ways. You can select it, go to edit, and do it here, or you can do it by selecting on data sheet view, and then you can actually just go in each one of these cells and change information. So as I said, we want to put these two parts into inventory. So we need to set the quantity to inventory to the quantity we want to go into inventory. Now, anything over 0 will put these parts in inventory. Maybe you ordered 5, 2 of these, 2 quarts of this are going to go on the vehicle you're working on. You want 3 to go. Let's do that. You want 3 to go into inventory. Save that. So these 2 parts are going to go into inventory because we set these at higher than 0. These 2 parts are not going to go into inventory because we don't have a number or it's less than or equal to 0. It's going to use these parts and these prices. Let's set the selling price of these equal to the list price. And save that. Now, let's select all these items. Actually, let's select those 3 items. Let's go ahead and process those. Make up a PO receipt number. Okay. Now, it didn't process this item because we didn't select it. Let's go over to the history real quick on this. So we go over here, purchase order history, and there it is right there. So you can see quantities received. Now we wanted these two parts to go into inventory. So let's go check that. Let's go back to here so we can just copy this real quick. Let's go back to parts. Let's look for this part number. There it is. It's imported in inventory. Let's go back over here. This is the part that we set 0 or nothing to go into stock. And you'll see that part number didn't go into stock. Now let's go and import some customers. Let's go here to customers. Now I'm just going to grab some customers right out of here. Let's find some ones with some addresses. This one looks good. We got some addresses here. Let's just poke through, see if there's anything better. Okay, this looks like the best one. So we're going to just copy all this. We're going to go back to Excel. And let's just paste all this right in. Let's start with a new one. And now paste all this in. Let's go ahead and insert a row. Let's just call this last, first, skip these. We'll put this as address, city, and state. Now let's go ahead and save that. Before we do, we're going to make a couple changes because these customers are already in the system. It's not going to allow us to import customers with the same address and the same last name. And since these are already in the system, it wouldn't allow us to import them. So let's go ahead and save these. Let's call this customers. Click Save. Let's go back to SmartGo. Let's import customers. We'll call it the last name, first name. We're going to call this address line 1 and city and state. Go ahead and import. When that little circle stops spinning, the record should be there. Let's go to advanced search. Begins with 0 because we put zeros in front of all those. And you can see it imported all those records. Let's go back to the spreadsheet and let's change this first name slightly. I'm going to save that. Now the program is actually going to look at the first name, last name, and the address. If the first name, last name, and the first line and the address are the same, it's not going to import the record. So let's go back. Let's go to import. Let's select that file again. Again, last name, first name, address line 1, and it did the city and state for us. One little trick, if you name your columns in your spreadsheet the same as these names, the program will go ahead and select them for you as it did here and here. Let's import that. And you'll see that it imported the one last name that changed, but it did not import the other ones, since those customers with those last names, first names, and address were already in here. Now let's move on to importing vehicles. Importing vehicles is a little bit more complicated and a little bit more time consuming. To import vehicles, we need Okay, let's move on to importing vehicles. To import vehicles is a little more complicated and time consuming. It saves some time because it allows you to import all your vehicles at one time. However, you then need to go and assign the owner of each vehicle. Now to start with, we need a customer to import all the vehicles to. So let's create a new customer. You don't have to create a customer. If you have a current customer you want to use, or if you have your shop in there, you may just choose that customer. You can choose any customer you want, but for this demo we're going to create a new customer. We're going to call this customer import vehicles. I'm going to copy this, spell that correctly. I'm going to copy this. Just go ahead and just add the customer. I'm going to quickly search for that customer. We're going to select that customer. To the import menu, drop down, select import vehicles. Now all the vehicles will be imported to this customer. The system has no way of knowing who owns what vehicles. That's something you're going to have to do individually once all the vehicles are imported. But this part gets the vehicles into the system. It decodes the VINs as they're going in. Then it's just a matter of going back, looking up the customers, looking up the vehicle, and then assigning the customers. So let's get some vehicles to import. I have a couple here. We got the tag numbers and the VINs. We're going to copy that. We're going to go over to Excel again. We're going to create a new file. We're going to go ahead and paste those in there. We're going to go ahead and create that new row. I'm going to call this tag. I'm going to call this VIN.